In Abbey Hulton, in Stoke-on-Trent, lies the ruins of Hulton Abbey, a former Cistercian monastery. It was established between 1219 and 1223 by Henry de Audley. The abbey lies in an area originally known as Hulton in the Domesday Book, which signifies hill town, and it's also known as Abbey Hulton, now known as Abbey Hulton. Despite its noble beginnings and the continuous patronage from the Audley family and other local landowners, Hulton Abbey struggled financially, and it was among the poorest in England. The abbey was built in the secluded Trent Valley, so it had the river and the hills and a lot of agricultural land surrounding it. And because of its financial challenges, the monks of Hulton Abbey engaged in various money-making activities. Initially they focused on sheep farming, which was a common thing for monasteries, but they also diversified and had a fulling mill on the River Trent and a tannery. Fulling was a step in woolen clothes making, which meant cleansing it to remove oils and things like that, so it basically made it water repellent and insulating. And the monks did this at Abbey Mill, which still stands today, but it's a farm. By the 16th century, in response to continuing economic pressures, the abbey further diversified into coal mining and smithing. The monks of Hulton Abbey were also involved in the production of pottery and tile making, particularly during the Middle Ages. Encaustic tiles, which are ceramic tiles inlaid with patterns made from different coloured clay, were one of the things that they made here. And many of these tiles were found during the excavation, and it's thought that this is one of the earliest examples of ceramics made in North Staffordshire. Southeast of the church is the remnants of a large dam, roughly 80 metres in length and about 3.2 metres high, and it originally held back a significant pond that powered the Abbey Mill. To the south of the monastic core buildings was an area that probably served as the centre for industrial activities. So that was probably the area that everything was created, everything was made, where the monks would have worked. And to the west, across what is now Leek Road, near the River Trent, there was fish ponds owned by the abbey, but these have been replaced by a residential development. But the street is called Fish Pond Way, and it is not part of the protected site, unfortunately. Architectural modifications over the years were particularly evident in the evolution of the abbey's windows. The abbey was originally built with simple lancet windows, which are narrow with pointed arches. But these were gradually replaced with more complex bar tracery designs, which let more light in and enhanced the aesthetic appeal of the building. The chapter house and the church at Hulton Abbey featured some of the earliest examples of bar tracery windows in the whole of the British Isles. The abbey was unfortunately lost during the dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII in the 1530s. The lands and everything inside the abbey was sold off, the lead roof was melted down, and the stone was reused in things like local Abbey Farm and other building projects. The land got passed through many people, and eventually it was owned by the Sneed family. And by 1838, Ralph Sneed owned about 1,100 acres of Abbey Hulton. The Adams family, who are the oldest potting family whose records exist, worked the potworks of the abbey for many generations after the dissolution of the monastery, and the family was still active in the area, with Thomas Adams of Birch's Head exploiting a coal mine that was still working in Abbey Hulton, and it was still operational as Abbey Hulton Colliery. At some point after the abbey was dissolved, a farm was built on the site, and it was known as Cormountside Farm. And by this point, there was no abbey ruins visible above the ground. In 1854, the farm site was disturbed during the construction of a new farmhouse and outbuildings commissioned by Ralph Sneed, and workers unearthed the remains of monks still clad in leather shoes and boots during excavations into a cellar. And it happened again in 1884 when there was drainage work going on at Cormountside Farm. The owner at that time was the Reverend Walter Sneed, and he is the one that started the actual excavations here. Charles Lynham then mapped out the main structures, including the church, chapter house, dormitories, kitchen and refectory, all organised around a square cloister with the church positioned to the north. But then the council acquired the estate after the First World War and built Abbey Hulton and Carmountide High School on the site. The school was built in the 1930s and demolished in 1987. And throughout this time there were many archaeological digs of the site. And there were many incredible finds, like the body of Hugh Despenser the Younger, who was hung, drawn and quartered. Hulton Abbey is open to the public, so you can go down and visit it whenever you want. And if you want to go and see the finds from all the archaeological digs, they're all on display at the Potteries Museum in Hanley. If you want a more detailed overview of the history of the Abbey, then do check out my website, The Red-Haired Stokey, where I've written a much more in-depth article. The site is recognised as a site of historical importance, but it's also on the Heritage at Risk register. And I've also written an article that answers what the tunnels are that run underneath the Abbey, including photographs inside them. So thanks for watching. If you love local history, don't forget to check out my website, The Red-Haired Stokey, and my other local history videos.